All right, we're going live. Everybody's here. Good morning, everybody. How you doing? Good morning, coffee. All right, grab your coffee. Let's get wired up. Good morning, Doug. Good to see you here. Jeff D is here too. My fellow leather lovers, digging it. Hi, Scott. Glad to see you here on your first catching us on your first live stream here. So good to see you. I've been doing these, the original goal was to do this every day, and it's become it's an amazing part of my day. It's the thing I look forward to the most, especially over the weekends, is coming back to say hi to you guys. And I've found it to be slightly challenging to get as much time as I'd like, given the amount of stuff that we're trying to ship to you. I'm very, very thankful to have everybody's support. So just being here, I really appreciate you guys here that are going to share some of the leather with me today. In this little inset, I've got a bunch of wallets down there, and we're going to take a look at. These are things that have been ordered over the weekend, and then I haven't shipped any of the private stock that you can kind of get a peek of over here. See those baseballs? I want to give a final farewell to some incredible private stock stuff. Oh, yeah. I spent all weekend with my wife and my daughter, and my dad and his wife were visiting from out of town, so we got a lot of good family time. But I do look for, honestly, I love the leather. There's so many things I love, and that doesn't mean I don't love one thing over another. I can love a lot of things at once. So I'm not afraid for my wife to hear that. She knows how much I care about this stuff. All right, let's, hey, Marco, dude, I won't share your address here, but I have something in a bag here for you, just sitting here. I was thinking to bring it by the tannery to drop off to you, but would you prefer that I ship it to the address 7355 address? Let me know if you want me to bring it over, Marco. And one more important thing before we start. I dropped a new podcast. If you scroll up to the top of the chat here, you can find links to Spotify and Apple Podcast. I think this one was one of my favorite podcast episodes that Nick and I did. It's with the founder for a company called Portland Leather Goods, who is probably the largest brand that I've ever had like a direct conversation with. They've been really successful, and talking to the owner, you can kind of see why. The guy is incredibly charismatic. I don't agree with most of the stuff. Like, I'm not a customer for their products, but I really appreciated just hearing what they're doing, and it's really cool, all the stuff that they're making for Portland leather, and then you can check out patina. I highly recommend checking out the most recent podcast episode, and then honestly, we don't have any in the can, so to speak, any more episodes, but we are planning to record at least another one this week, so we're trying to do one every week. All right, Marco, I'll try to bring it over. All right, let's take a look at some stuff. I won't keep you waiting here. There's a product that we have back in stock that I think is beautiful. It's the blue leather that you can see on the table there. And I'll try to talk about it as I walk over. Look at this crazy zoom in. Hi. All right. Then we got the blue cypress Johnny the Foxes back in stock, and that was something that we sold out of, and then a bunch of people were requesting it. So we only have a couple left because people have been asking for them. And I'm trying to get over to the table. We do have a couple of Royal Blue Cypress foxes available. So if you were trying to pick up something in Royal Blue, if you need a wallet and you want to try out Johnny the Fox, I think this one right here is a really great option. I just love the look of how clean this one is. All right. We're going to start off first, and everything that we're about to look at has been things that have been ordered over the weekend, so we are still trying to finish them. So our goal today is to put these through our finishing process, give the grains a little bit of a polish, make sure the edges are all cleaned up, and then ship it out to you. So that's our goal today. So you might see some things that still need to get polished. But let's start off first here with Royal Blue Cypress on the Johnny the Fox. This is, as I'm looking at the screen here, it's a little bit darker in person and lighter on the camera, but it's a very beautiful, clean, consistent look of that Royal Blue Cypress. If you're familiar with the Dublin leather, it's sort of a combination of Dublin meets Latigo, where it has a hard wax finish on the grain layer. So it's very, very resilient was my experience wearing this, and I loved it. And it wears in great. It gets much brighter and shinier. So Royal Blue Cypress foxes are back. We also have a couple other Royal Blue items that I'm going to share with you. Tony the Ant in Royal Blue Cypress. That's also available. We do a wax and burnished edge on these because the Royal Blue Cypress is a drum dyed leather. So we get the penetration of the color all the way through the cross section of the leather. So it's not only blue on the surface of the grain, but it's also blue all the way through, including the backside of the leather. Like if you look inside of this Frank the Enforcer, you can see the backside, that more fibrous section of the leather, or fibrous side of the leather, I suppose, is also blue. And that's because, again, this is drum dyed. And then we finish off the backside of the Cypress, and all of our leathers, all the non-cordovan leathers, we finish those in with a little bit of a resin coat that really just gives it a cleaned up look that I like very much. So speaking of Cypress, we also have brown Cypress, and here's a brown Cypress Tony the Ant. It's the same exact leather with that tough wax finish on the grain, but it's in a brown shade that I think more people, when they think of leather, this is more of a color that they think of as opposed to the blue. It's very, very beautiful, the brown Cypress, like very, very flat in texture, which I like always. Some people really like more figuring and grain character, sort of like on this Dublin small zip wallet here. You can see it's got like, this one's pretty flat, but you can see it's got a little bit more natural variance in the texture of the grain. Now this small zip, I'm noticing this color of English tan is like a little bit more yellow than most. Oftentimes they're a little bit more orange. We do have a horsehide Latigo interior, and it expands like this. We're almost sold out on these, so I got to make some more small zips. Here is one of our proprietary products. This is the Tanner's Blend Conditioner. I suggest this for any product, including like furniture that's starting to look a little dried out, that really breathes the life back into any product. And I think it pairs perfectly with a leather like Chrome Excel. It was developed by the tanner from Horween, so you might get a sense of how it will affect leather. It's very much intended to give a rich feel and a rich look. Here's a beautiful John the Fox also. You can see the edges on this have not been worked on, so we have to still sand this one down, make it a little flat, wax and burnish the edges. But we've got Color 8 Shell Cordovan on the outside. That's the classic Cordovan color with reverse Color 8 on the inside. So you can see what I'm talking about with reverse. So in the bill slot here, we flipped this piece around to show off the reverse side on the interior. And Color 8 Shell does range on the reverse side from like a little bit more of like a reddish tan to sometimes like a lighter, it's almost more of like a natural color with sometimes red splatter. We like the reverse interiors because they're unique. Now here's a Fat Herbie in Color 8 Shell Cordovan. And this is the classic way, so it's shell all over the place. So Color 8 Shell on top of Color 8 Shell for the outside. I love the Fat Herbie for this exterior thumb notch. I find it to be really easy to use. And then Color 8 Shell on the inside. We try to cut the ink stamp whenever possible on the inside center of the Fat Herbies. We get some English tan. Let's slide more stuff forward. I'm going to slide it all the way forward. All right. Bugs Moran, English Tan Dublin. This one's got a little bit more of that figuring, but not as intense as it can get. It is very random. See this little bits of striations on the left card holder there? That's sometimes what we see on the English Tan Dublin. This one we do like a light staining on the edges for all the English Tan pieces, including the Johnny the Fox here. English Tan Dublin here, and then English Tan Dublin on the inside. We use different thicknesses of leather for this wallet on the outside when compared to the inside. So they're a little bit thinner on the interior, and the reason we do that is because there's so many different layers of leather that we found it just to be a more pleasant experience to use naturally thinner pieces of leather from the tannery to get this big stack of things lined up. Because if you use all the same weight, this is 4 ounces on the outside. If you use that on the interior of these wallets, it just gets way, way, way too thick. So we found a really great sweet spot with some thinner stuff on the interior. Marco, who's in the chat here, or was in the chat, works at the splitting department for Horween, and he can tell you just how hard it is to get some of those thinner pieces. All right, here's another Color 8 Shell Cordovan piece. It's just like the Fat Herbie aesthetic with that exterior bill slot. This one's also in Color 8, but this is a little bit of a smaller form factor. People wanted it a little bit, the people wanted the Herbie aesthetic and that vibe, but they wanted it slimmed down. So we came up with the Tony the Ant here. And what I've been loving about our Color 8 and black shell pieces is we're doing a perfectly matched hand-stained edge. So you can see the color of the edges matches the color of the shell perfectly, and then we wax it down and burnish it because it's just a really, really, really great look. I love how the black and color 8 hand stained edges are turning out. Speaking of black, here's the black shell cordovan Johnny the Fox. We also have naturally thin pieces of shell. So what a lot of people don't know is that each piece of shell is significantly different, but it's even more, an appearance is different, but also in the thickness. Each shell is a little bit of a different thickness. They try to make them around 5 ounces for a lot of footwear, but even within that shell itself, there's a wide range of thickness, and sometimes the leather drops off towards the bottom section of the shell, and the thickness can get thin enough in about 1 to 2% of shells for us to be able to appropriately cut one pattern piece here. So it's really tough for us to get the naturally thin pieces of shell for Johnny the Fox here. You can see all those different layers of leather. It's really, really tough to get. And then black stained edge on this guy. Every pattern piece on that wallet has a hand stained edge. All right, here's a traveler passport holder. And you might confuse this, and I confuse this for a Fat Herbie often, because it has the same aesthetic. So we have that bill slot on the outside. The difference with the traveler passport holder is we have this open slot on the right. You can fit a passport under there, and it's a little bit taller than a Fat Herbie. And the reason this is great as a passport holder is this fits every paper currency in the world in addition to your passport. So it's just like a one thing that you carry around. Instead of taking a wallet and a passport holder, you just can take this guy and hold all your stuff together at once. Let's look at a couple belts. I got a bunch of belts going out today, and I've picked a few out to look at. Black Chrome XL, and this is our Horween leather belt in black Chrome XL. You can see this one is a size 34. Still need to cut the adjustment holes on this and then finish off the edges. The black Chrome XL, you might notice, has a black color on the grain, but a lighter tan color underneath. Now this is the natural color of the Chrome XL leather. They stain black on the surface. This is something that is known as T-core. I'm actually wearing a pair of black Chrome XL boots right now, and as the leather is scuffed, you reveal a little bit of the lighter tones from underneath, and it has this really cool sort of contrasty vibe that I really appreciate, and it seems like a lot of people are really into these days. Here's one, another Horween leather belt in brown Chrome XL. You can see it's also on the natural back, but it's straight up brown. It's like a dark coffee almost. And then one more belt to show you. This is natural Chrome XL. I have a few pairs of boots in this. Very, very beautiful. I think the natural Chrome XL is the most popular Chrome XL color that Horween makes. You can see our teardrop shaped adjustment holes on this guy. A bunch more wallets to look at, and I still want to give you a peek. Oops, sorry for the shake. I still want to give you a peek at some of the private stock stuff. I want to give them a farewell because there's some really, I didn't do, I purposefully didn't do a long video showing everything from the private stock event last week. I wanted to sneak some stuff up there, including the baseballs. All right, more wallets and other little accessories. So we got a Chicago comb. This is a carbon fiber comb with an English tan Dublin sheath. The comb fits perfectly into the sheath there. And this is a comb that's really tough and rigid, and it's pretty inexpensive being made in carbon fiber. They used to make them in metal, and they still do, but those are like 4 times the price. And some people are turned off by the idea of like metal touching their scalp. So I think they started doing the carbon fiber and have become really successful. So local partners here, Chicago comb, check them out. They're really great. We also have a lighter sheath. This is a black shell cordovan lighter sheath. And I think we've starting to run out. I think we've run out of these now. We're starting to do more watch bands. This is a color 8 shell cordovan 2-piece watch strap. This is a 20 millimeter lug width and a 2 millimeter taper. So the buckle is 18 millimeters across on this side and 20 millimeters at the lug. We do these in 2 different lengths. This is what we call the regular length, where the longer adjustment side piece is 120 millimeters, and the shorter buckle end, this is 80 millimeters. All of our straps are unlined straps, and I find them to just be more comfortable. I'm actually wearing a natural Chrome XL Apple Watch band right now. I'm really digging it right now. I really like this one. Very, very comfortable. Here's a garnet shell cordovan key fob going out. You can see there's just 2 pieces of leather, and we've riveted it closed with another piece of hardware here. So we've got the antique copper rivet with an antique copper split key ring. That works very well. It's very, very simple. It's a good way to like check out different leathers and identify your keys in certain ways. That's how I use it. Here's another Johnny the Fox. We had a 100% black shell Fox. This one is 100% color 8. Beautiful color 8 edges here. And And I love, again, I love how clean these are turning out when we hand stain all those edges. We've got a couple, oh, another Frank the Enforcer. This one's in natural shell cordovan. And a lot of people are looking for patina, a leather that will change and develop over time. I find the natural shell and the raw natural shell to be the most dramatic patina from what I've seen. And if you want to see what the shell looks like after 1,000 days of wear, I forget. Yeah, on our website we have a photo from day 1 and day 1,000. The stuff just gets amazing, very dark and golden brown just with normal use, and the luster develops. Now on the black shell here, you can see, speaking of luster, a bright shiny luster. The difference with the patina luster, especially on shell, I've noticed it on many veg tan leathers, is almost like there's a glow that happens inside the leather that comes out. So you get this layered luster effect. There's a surface luster and then this like deeper glow luster that's really beautiful. You don't tend to see too much of a dramatic change on the black shell cordovan, but it is really, really clean looking. There's something magical and like I keep calling it futuristic about black shell. I really like the look of that. Let's go to this black shell. Here's a black shell cordovan small zip with a teal horsehide latigo interior. I think these are also sold out now. We only had a couple of these to begin with. I'm really digging the small zips too. This is another one that's very difficult to make because you kind of have to like get your sewing machine needle in between these spots, and it takes a special machine to do and a special person to craft it. So here's a piece of Dublin that's a little bit more of a dramatic texture than some of the Dublin we looked at before. You can see all this natural variation in that grain character. I think a lot of people are looking for a unique piece and a very natural look. You can cover up that stuff and make it consistent by painting it finished. But we like a very much natural finish, which is known in the leather world as an aniline finish. So all aniline means is that you're applying dyes and not pigments to the leather for the color. So it's very analogous to like paint or stain. So if you got a piece of wood and you stain it, you can still see a lot of the natural character inside. That's what the Dublin is here. But if you were to paint this over, you'd get a very clean, consistent look, but it doesn't have much natural character to it or any variance. It starts to look a little bit more like paint. And as a side effect of that, you tend to develop less of a patina. It tends to stay looking the way it is. So we lean more towards the aniline, more natural vibe for most of our products, including the Tony the Ant here in English Tan Dublin. Here is one of our more popular items right now. This is the Bugs Moran style, but we have the vertical card slots on the inside. So we got 2 card slots on the left, 2 on the right, and then there's hidden card slots underneath. So this one's in black shell with those black hand stained edges. Here's one in English Tan Dublin with a nice Horween measuring machine stamp on the inside center. And, oh, a black Dublin. So we have the black shell fox. This is a black Dublin fox. I'll try to compare those for you. Look at the shell. Super flat and smooth and shiny. Super, super smooth. Now the Dublin has much more texture to it. And that's because this is a full grain leather. The shell cordovan is like a unique beast. There's no grain on it at all. It's just that dense fiber layer under it's called subcutaneous. It's under the skin of all equine animals. It's very dense and smooth. This piece of Dublin here is really, really flat and even, which is beautiful, but you can see much more character in the skin there. And I'll try to give extreme close-ups of each. Take a look at the shell. It's like very, very flat. Where the grain texture on the Dublin, you can see a little bit more of those hair holes. And then the inside is latigo. All right, more natural shell cordovan. Tony the Ant here. We do a waxed and burnished edge on the natural shells. And then 2 more color A pieces. So this is a good time to compare the size of the Fat Herbie and the Traveler Passport Holder. And the Traveler, you'll notice, is just very slightly taller than the Herbie. You might be able to see it right there. Just a little bit taller. And again, we did that to more easily accommodate a Passport inside of that little flap on the inside right. And here's a look at the Herbie. So we decided it would be a good idea to offer both because I think just that little extra 1/4 inch, it's not a huge difference, but I just think the Herbie fits perfectly into a pocket, even though most people look at this and go, wow, that's huge. It might not fit. Let's look at some of the private stock stuff. Give our fond farewell. Speaking of Herbies, this was a really nice piece of black shell that I hope translates on the videos here on the live stream. It's got this, like, we call it an epic texture, It's sort of like this ripples on the water look in the shell that come out at certain angles. It is very, very flat and smooth that you might be able to see here, but sort of like underneath, it's got this like, it's almost like a hologram where there's like stuff going on underneath that it's like kind of hard to tell. It's a really beautiful piece of black shell here. This one has a hand stitching in the orange color, and then we've got the gold foil on the inside. Another Herbie here that I thought was remarkable. I love this epic splatter on the reverse color 8, especially on this one, because it's almost like two-faced. So this one's more red, and then the back of it is like this crazy drippy thing. And I think that's really, really neat. And then we have that sitting on top of the color 8 shell with more epic splatter on the inside and the gold foil. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. And that's something that we can't recreate. Like a lot of these are very, very unique, including this guy here. My dad, a lifelong Chicago Bears fan, and he saw this wallet and confronted me. He said, "Why are you making Green Bay Packers wallets?" I said, "I'm not. We just had this green leather and thought it would look cool with the yellow." And it really does. We also have the hand stained edge on this guy. It turned out great. We sort of have, I don't know what to call it, like a complementing long wallet in a similar style. Now, this is a different texture, but this is the Western texture also on green shell. And these green shells are really dramatic or like really dynamic for the color range. So some angles it's a little bit darker, and then other angles it's a little bit lighter. And it's almost more of like a Kelly green at some angles and forest green at others. Really, really neat. And then the yellow stitching sort of sets it all off. And then the inside, we've got that combination again with the yellow latigo and the green shells. This flap section is something we don't normally offer, which is what makes it private stock. But you might also see, this is a huge piece of shell on the inside and on the outside. It's a lot of money and just leather for this guy. So it was a special piece. Not every shell is even large enough to cut a piece like this. It's huge. Most shells are roughly 2 square feet. And this is sort of like all of the shell. And some shells are too small to even cut this. So it's kind of magical to see this extra large context of cordovan. I love it. Let's take a look at another wallet and then a couple of baseballs, and then I'll see what you guys are chatting about. Here's a Frank the Enforcer that was one of my favorites. We don't get a lot of tumbled verdigris shell cordovan, and this is a beautiful one. Now the tumbling in the shells give it this obvious sort of ripply effect, but it also seems to open up the fibers and has more of like a suede look and feel. So this is almost like velvety soft, where most of the shells are very compacted and very tight. They don't have the feel that the tumble shells have. So again, by tumbling it, I think they've opened up the surface layer of the shell, and it has this like velvety feel and almost like a velvety look. I have a suspicion that by opening up those fibers, it allows for more of an acceptance to patina. So I think you will see this change more dramatically being tumbled as if it wasn't tumbled. The other interesting thing about it is because we've opened up those fibers and the fibers are directional, they're pointing one angle. As you spin this, the color like really, really changes, which I think is a fun parlor trick. And then again, on this tumbled verdigris, really cool and unique look. And then we've got the hand stitching. We actually have a five card slot for this guy. There's 2 on the front, 1 on the top, and then 2 on the back. Special piece, really special. That's why it's private stock. And then we've got a couple baseballs. This one is pretty unique. I don't know what, like, it's almost like we should start doing baseball team colors. I think this is Whiskey Shell cordovan with an alternating blue and orange stitch. We also had a couple other special ones. They're all special. I really like this guy. Speaking of the tumbled shells, so this is tumbled natural, and I believe this is combined with color 4 shell, and then that sort of like purple stitching. And we had marbled ultraviolet, or was this inverted ultraviolet? It might be a combination, inverted, and I think this is. They're both inverted. Sometimes we combine them, but they're like kind of similar effects where it's very random and unique. So I've got balls. And then I don't know if these have all sold out, but we had the thin horsehide, the stone horsehide latigo. We made several of these. I think we made like 5 or 6 because I wanted people to experience some non-shell cordovan stuff. There's so many good leathers, and we've become known for cordovan wallets. There's so much amazing stuff. I think the lack of thickness on this horsehide is actually a little bit more of a pleasant wallet. I prefer a thinner wallet. A lot of people equate thickness of leather to quality. That's not always the case. You can have all leather that's equally durable regardless of weight. I think more important of a question to ask would be is what's in it? What's tanned into the leather? And Horween's Latigo here is a very tough leather. So regardless of the thickness, this Latigo is going to last. And if it doesn't, we'll fix it or refund you or send you a new one. So I think we made, I don't know if there are any available, but I think we made a few of these in addition to the natural Latigo, Fat Herbies. And these are another thing I wanted to try to put into the world because, again, we've become known for the cordovan stuff. And the material of shell cordovan is 10 times the price per foot of non-cordovan stuff. So even other expensive Horween leathers like the Latigo here, the shell's 10 times that. And I've noticed that it can be a little bit, what's the right word? It's sort of like puts you in this world of like very, very expensive in the cordovan where I want to be a little bit more accessible. And this is still expensive, I understand. But that's, the leather's expensive. We're doing stuff in Chicago. We're making it what we consider to be the right way. So it is still expensive, but it's less than half the price of the cordovan wallets, which I think is important for us to continue to do. So we got a bunch of, I'm going to send out all those private stocks today. In addition to the other stuff we looked at. One more thing I want to show you. For the first time ever, we've done a riveted belt in a special leather. This is the horse butt strips that Horween tan alongside the shell cordovan. And now this is also interesting for me, at least. Let's see how interesting it is for you. The horse butt strip here is a leather that Horween has been making for years. It was originally used in the razor strops alongside the cordovan back in 1905, and they've continued to make it since then. Skip has had some ideas recently, and he's been wanting to try some different finishing experiments. And this is one of the experiments. So it's horse butt strips finished the same way as the Color 8 shell cordovan. So you get that really beautiful, like natural striations of what many people appreciate about horse butts. But we also have the color of Color 8 and then the brightness of the shell cordovan finishing coming through. With the big difference, obviously the striations are much different than the shell, but also the grain. This is a full grain leather, unlike the shell. So if you look, it's really, really sugary almost, like a lot of very intense grain. And it's beautiful. I find it interesting how the dye has penetrated these striations in different ways. So you get this interesting like textured look, and it's darker on the peaks and like lighter in the valleys. Very, very neat. So I'm excited for these. We also have the rivets, like I said, for the first time ever. We put a metal keeper on this guy to sort of match all that antique brass together. Still need to cut these, but there's a couple lucky people that picked these up last Friday during the private stock event, and I'm really excited for you guys to have them and see how they wear in. All right, I'm going to roll back over, drink some coffee, say hi to you guys, and then try to thank people that are picking up stuff. And hit everything on the way. Sorry for the if you're getting motion sickness. Oh man, so much good stuff. I love leather. Is that nerdy? I see a comment here saying wearing a natural Latigo Johnny the Fox, it takes a while to patina. That is part of it. It's a very slow burn. It's beautiful though. The ones I've worn have become very, very glassy that I like a lot. All right, if you're in the chat, please say hi. I would love to see your name, shout you out. And if you have any questions, I'll spend a few minutes here chatting with you guys, drinking coffee. It's like that Jerry Seinfeld comedians in cars getting coffee show, except this is a guy alone with belts behind him drinking coffee, talking to people on the internet. It's a much catchier title. All right. Oh, Jeff D. Matt just walked in the shop here. Jeff D says, shout out to Matt for some amazing customer service skills as I sort through options on the MTO strap. Thanks, Matt. I don't know if sometimes we put our headphones in and we call it going dark. Matt might be dark right now. I'm going dark. All right, back to the top of the chat here. Quan's here. Chase is here. Rob, good to see you. Alan, good morning. Oh, Pepper picked up another wallet. I think I saw that. Marco's saying hi from across the street at Horween break time. He's probably back at work now. I think the break ends at 9:45 our time. Scott says, you watch countless hours of repeats and have plenty of my products. Oh, man, thank you so much. Everyday Carry Buffalo. Nice, man. Chris Diaz is here. Uncle Jimmy, good to see you guys. BFAT, my buddy, fellow Ash Hat is here. Corporal Punish, definitely got a Fox with thin pieces inside. I have a natural Chrome Excel one that's a brick. It's probably twice as thick as one I have with the thin Latigo. I really agree with you. Show that tumbled verdigris. Done. Did it. Rob says, is the tumbled marbled black shell tall Tony that was posted on Instagram last week spoken for? Likely yes. I was hoping to have it featured in private sale. Sometimes I'm honestly not sure which one you're talking about. My brother Matt, who we've complimented and deserves a lot of praise, he does all the Instagram stuff, and sometimes we just post crazy stuff as well, I don't know what he's considering, but I consider them to be billboards. So it's like, hey, look how crazy this is. I feel like the social media stuff we don't, other than YouTube here, we don't do like a ton of work on. So I think it's more of like, hey, look what we can do, and oh wow, that's kind of neat. It's fun to see different ideas too. So for people trying to do made to order stuff, it's often valuable to skim through the Instagram to sort of get inspiration. I also suggest looking at the YouTube videos to see the directionality of colors in some of the different shell colors, for example. It's a little bit more valuable on a video. But I don't know what wallet you're talking about. And from the sounds of it, if it's marbled and tumbled, we probably don't have, or certainly don't have a piece that looks exactly the same, but we can probably get you something similar if you're good to wait for it. All right. Russ Bucket, can't wait for my baseball color 4 shell tumbled natural. Oh, we just looked at that one. It's going to be a fidget toy. We envision these baseballs as more of desk toys, right? So they do have a little bit of squish to them, which was our thought process in designing them, because we were originally thinking like nobody's going to want to play catch with the shell ball, although you certainly can, and we have, and it was fine. It's totally fine. For me, it's more of like a fun thing to like experience while you're working. As stupid as that sounds, like just sitting on your desk, like, oh, that's nice. It smells good. So it's nice to touch. So that's sort of the idea for the baseballs, and I'm glad that that's how you're going to do it too. But you could play catch with it. It works totally fine. Can I get a MTO horsebutt belt like that on your private stock? We can't do. So the thing about that leather is it's cutting edge sounds a little aggressive. That's on the tip of the development spear for Horween. And again, like when you tell me, oh, I like that, this is helpful because I can go back to the tannery and say, wow, people really like that horsebutt strip. Skip, you should do that again. And if enough people say it, then we do it. There's a couple challenges with the horsebutt strips on the belts. And you may have noticed those belts were only up to size 38, I think. The horsebutt strips are also naturally encumbered by their natural dimensions. So some of them are not long enough to make a belt at all, unless you're like a size 28. In fact, most of them are not very long and wide, they call them. So getting the long ones made into belts can sometimes be a challenge in the same way that getting thin pieces of shell is a challenge. I like the look of those also, so I would prefer to do more of them. And I sent, before the private stock event even happened, I loved the look of it, and I sent Skip a photo, and I think all he said back was like, ooh, like I think he really likes it too. So I would expect to be able to do more of those horsebutt strips in the future. And it's going to take a little bit of coordination between the tannery and myself to get those done in the lengths that are required to make a nice belt. And those turned out great. Okay. It's me, BK. Any idea when you stock more coasters? I'm dying for more Color 8. BK, send Matt an email. I think we might have some coasters that aren't on the site. So if you want to get like a 4-pack, just email info@ashlandleather.com. Say, I'd love some Color 8 Chrome XL coasters. He'd probably help you out. Doug says, any word on the Blue Bison release? All right. No, but we are making some test products to see how it wears in. And I've been wearing mine, and I love it. This is another one of those wallets that's for the, how do I put it, like without being a dick. When you go to places and people don't know about leather, you take this wallet out to pay for lunch, like I did over the weekend. And people go, whoa, what is that? Like, this is one of those like eye catchers that even like people that aren't obsessed with leather, like you are in the chat, that really catches people's eye. And it's the combination of the color of the blue as well as the texture. You've never seen anything like this before. So it's beautiful. We've been doing some tests. So obviously I got the Herbie here. I've seen some other wallet styles in the leather. We wanted to make sure we knew how to work with it before releasing it. And it seemed to be working well. It's a little bit, it's not a problem, but it's a little bit different than some of the other leathers that we do. So we're trying to get it as good as we can in terms of like beveling and then edge finishing on these wallets. Because again, like every leather is a little bit different. So we've been experimenting with trials for different materials to wax and burnish the edges with, as well as beveling and things like that. The other thing that people notice is the difference in coarseness and fineness of the texture from what we call the middle piece of my Herbie here to the bill slot piece. And a lot of people think it's two different leathers. It's just that because it's a natural shrunken bison, there is a variance in the pebble pattern. So that's something I think we're going to have to consider when we're cutting, because I don't want you to think that it's two different leathers. We have to be like a little bit more thoughtful with how we cut these together. So if they're laying on top of each other like this, they should probably be of similar coarseness or fineness for the pebble pattern. But I'm loving this thing. It's the other thing I've noticed, in the same way that the cypress is crazy resilient, this is also super tough. It seems to be really resistant to scratches and dents, which is something you don't find from a lot of veg. And that's what this is, veg tan, natural shrunken bison, which I think doesn't exist. I could be wrong. This might be the first of its kind. JHS says, any green cordovan available? Yes. And do you do international shipping? Yes, we do. If you want a green shell piece, I'm 99% sure we have some. And there's a couple variations of the green. Like one of them is a lighter, I think more appropriate for wallet green, that's called emerald. And one of them is a bit darker called dark green that in some light can appear a little bit black. So I usually try to steer people into the emerald green, or like it's just called green as opposed to dark green. But I think we might have all of that. And it's the same with the denim shells as opposed to intense blue or navy. Sometimes those intense blue and navy shells can just be a little dark. And some people complain when they get it, they're like, this is black. Like, no, it's just like really dark blue. So we started doing the denim blue that seems to be more popular. And I think on a leather good where you're not forming it around a last and making a shoe, those lighter colors are better. Whereas on a last, like when you mold the leather around the form, you can reveal some of the lighter undertones in something like intense blue. So it's probably more appropriate for footwear for the darker shades. And you maybe don't want to wear like super bright blue shoes. I don't think the market for that is as big. And then international shipping, yes, we do ship internationally, and we can hook you up with that. Quan says the natural Latigo reminds you of leather in Ferraris. Oh, I don't know. I'm not familiar with that. I should check that out. I started doing the natural Latigo, or I ordered it because I thought people wanted the natural veg color and the ability to develop patina. Turns out like not everybody wants that natural veg color. and then the patina changes a little bit more slowly on the latigo. So it wasn't really accomplishing the goals that I had originally thought it would. However, the luster that develops on that stuff is incredible. So I still love it. It's not changing quickly. So you kind of really have to earn that one, which is fun. But it's a little bit different than I had anticipated. Yeah, if you want to email Matt, anybody that's trying to pick up something made to order, or if you have maybe something that's sold out, he can set you up with for the next available product, or like a coaster, or tell you what we have available. His email is info@ashlandleather.com. Info. Very easy. You have a Hulk watch, so emerald would be good. Whoa, it'd be cool with that. Emerald would be neat, and then maybe like a gator or something, like kind of, I don't know, maybe not. Kind of texture to be like Hulkish to me. Make it look like a 6-pack. I don't know. I'm just winging it. All right, let me thank a bunch of people. And as I pull on my screen here, I just want to remind everybody we got a new Full Grain podcast episode up. It's on Apple. It's on Spotify. There'll be an episode coming out on YouTube tonight. And this episode that came out this morning, in fact, it came out 2 hours ago. It's one of my favorites that we've ever done. I really encourage you to check out Full Grain Podcast. Let me link. I'll link the Apple one here. Copy. After we're done here, I highly recommend checking out this episode. The owner for Portland Leather Goods. Maybe one of the most charismatic people I've talked to. All right, we got a bunch of people that have ordered something over the weekend here, and I really want to take the time to thank everybody personally. So we got Christopher M, Alexander M, Mike E, Michael A, Richard T, Diamond S, Aftab S, Nathaniel T, Herb, Matthew L, Stephanie, Robert R, Michael T, Thomas M, David T, Cole J, Colby B, Kenneth T, Pepper J, who was in the chat. Good to see you, Pepper. Maria P, Marcia L, Jake S, Bob M, Guy C, Neil S, Jeff C, Daniel Z, Seth T, Ian L, John D, Jose G, Brian S, Leo M, Stephen F, Marcos R, Robert A, Shireen L, Gary K, Len B, screen's getting far away, Sajith S, Eric D, Thomas M, Spencer K, Diego R, Ali A, David M, Jennifer T, Philip H, Joshua K, Jonathan L. More to come. Thank you guys so much. Gary M, Susan S, Denzel T, Daniel P, James S, Mike M, Jerry S, Seth T, Christian C, Humberto L, Ken C, Dakota G, Legend C, Price C, Mark B, Glenn U, Garrett, Matthew Z, Joe F, Ron R, John M, Jason B, Eduardo T, Jim C, Nick M, Jeffrey O, Justin V, Victor C, John C, Justin M, Cameral K, Tony, Quingao L, Marvin M, Sean G, Greg V, Benjamin R, Brian C, Jack D, Matthew M, Ben W, Paul G, Ron S, Don S, Bentley B, Peter C. Just a couple more here. I really appreciate you guys. Adam W, John J, Donald S, Rick P, Steve S, Precious A, Howard W, Terry R, Melvin D, Masashi G, Theo S, Paul H, Les M, Pete C, Adam W, Bruce A, Tucker L, Leandro V, Michael G, Michael K, Darius S, Pascal F. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate everybody picking up stuff, sharing the leather with us, and supporting our little company here. All right, let's see. A Rolex Hulk. You know what, man? I'm sorry. I don't know what a Rolex Hulk is. I'm sorry. I'm not like, I should probably be more cool with watches. I just don't know. Fatty's waiting for a Tony the Ant. If you ordered one, we'll be shipping it today. If you ordered over the weekend. BFET says, any chance of getting a black Chrome XL Apple Watch band by Mother's Day? Probably not, unless we have them in stock. Yeah, I think Matt's dark right now. Otherwise, I'd ask him. But just send Matt an email. He'll tell you what's up. But I'm made to order watch band right now. Can't happen for at least 2 or 3 weeks. David M says, you just want to say you're really enjoying the Full Grain podcast. Hell yeah. I loved it. I lose money on it, but it's one of the more fun things I do. I get to hang out with my buddy Nick and then just talk to amazing people. We've been going into, in the last episode a week ago, we went into some history, and I think we want to explore a little bit more leather history. Maybe talk to some like actual historians instead of just reading the internet to you. But man, the podcast is one of those bits of joy in my life that is worth all the money, right? So yeah, people don't know, like, I don't know, I buy all this stuff to like record podcasts, and then I spend all the time to edit it and like arrange all the guests. It's not a financially smart thing to do, but it certainly is fun. And sometimes that's just the way to do it. All right, Jay. After I turn it off here, I'm going to Google search your watch and try to understand a little bit more. I appreciate that too, because I love learning new stuff. I'll search that reference number. All right, hey guys. Thank you again for being here. Hope you guys have a really great week, and I'll see you later. I'll try to be here. You know what? I'm a single dad this week. It might be tough for me. My wife's out of town at a conference, so it might be tough for me to get free. But I will be here if I can. That's my promise to you guys. I appreciate you being here today. And thanks again so much for your support. I'll see you guys later. Hello.